Okay, for my pant, my origin point for my pant is going to be at the thigh through the center of the pant. So that means that every single point around here is going to grade. So we'll start at the top with our waist and hip because we know that our waist and hip specs, grade rules, grade movements are 2 inches, right? So our hip, our waist is grading 2 inches. So with pants, because we still have 4 panels like we always do. So if we have a 2-inch grade rule, we need to grade a 1/2 inch per panel. However, we're grading on both sides. So while this panel will grade a 1/2 inch, we need half of it to go here and half of it to go here. So I am going to create a Y rule. Oops. That is 1/2 of a 1/2, which is a 1/4. Okay. Please note, because the origin is through the center of my piece, that anything above that axis will be negatives for smaller sizes, positive for largers. Anything below will be flipped in the X. Okay. All right. So then for my 17 and 20 rules, I will have the same thing because my waist and hip have the same circumference grade, right? And we're evenly distributing that grade on either side. All right, we're gonna skip the thigh and we're gonna move to the leg bottom and the knee. So the leg bottom and the knee are grading 1/4 inch per size. For these measurements, we have 2 panels. We have a front and a back. So 1/4 divided by 2 is an 1/8. However, again, we're grading on both sides. So while this panel is grading an 1/8 of an inch, we're getting a 1/16 on this side and a 1/16 on this side, which means my Y rule is going to be a 16. Okay, same thing goes here. These will be negative. These will be negative for the smaller sizes. These will be negative for the larger sizes. My Y rule will be the same at 15 because my knee and my leg bottom have the same exact grade if you look at my spec. Okay, they both grade 1/4 inch. All right. Let's talk about X's real quick again before we get to the thigh. So my inseam is not growing with this grade table. If we wanted to grow our inseam, we would grow it with a secondary grade table so that we could pair waist measurements with inseam measurements. Since inseams don't necessarily grow with bodies, we like to give customers a sort of a variation, a choice to choose their waist and their inseam. So for right now, we're going to not grade the inseam, which means all of our X values down here will be 0. All right. Our X values for our crotch points will also be 0 because the thigh is our y-axis. Okay. For our X's here, the way we can determine these is by looking at our hip placement. So our hip placement is 1/4 of an inch per size. So that means that essentially we have a slash line here, okay? And we're going to consider this slash line 1/4 of an inch. All right, great. Okay, so my grade rules here, 18 and 19 for X, are also going to be 1/4. All right, if my waist is moving 1/4 and I want my hip placement to grow and shrink 1/4, then that means that my resulting grade here is 0, right? The same logic that we used on the bodysuit, if I know I want this to grade 1/4 and my grade above it is 1/4, 1/4 minus 1/4 is 0, okay? So as this moves 1/4, this stays still. This distance between here and here is going to grow 1/4 with this grade movement, okay? Now for my thigh, I have to look at two things. I have to look at my front and back rise movements, and I have to look at my thigh. So when we did our waist and hip, essentially the way you can think about this is that we created a slash line here and we created a slash line here. Each of these was 1/4 of an inch. Okay, that's how we got these quarters here, and that's how we got this quarter here at waist and hip. Okay, so in addition to that, if you look at traditional slash lines for pants, we have this extra slash line that grows and shrinks our crotch extension. Okay, so essentially we have this extra grade point here that's going to increase our crotch extension. So to figure this out, we already know this is 1/4. To figure this out, we're going to look at our front and back rise grades. So our front rise grade is 3/8 and our back rise grade is 1/2. So we know our waist is growing 1/4 here in the X direction. So we know our rise is getting 1/4 taller. So on the front for the 11, if my, let's do this, I don't want to confuse you guys. Okay, my front is up here. All of the grade rules are the same except for this crotch point, okay? So if I have 1/4 that's growing here and my whole front rise needs to get 3/8 larger, 3/8 minus 1/4 leaves me with 1/8, okay? So that means that this slash line here needs to be 1/8 of an inch. Sorry, I shouldn't write it there. It's not the Y movement, okay? That means for the front, this little guy, this is what I should have brought with me. This little guy, okay, is 1/8 of an inch. All right. Now on my back, this guy, my back rise should grade 1/2. I have 1/4 that's happening up here. So 1/2 minus 1/4 leaves me with 1/4, which means this slash line is 1/4 on the back. Okay. So on the back, if I'm going from origin line to this point, I'm crossing this quarter slash and this quarter slash, which means my total Y grade here is 1/2. Okay, and then that also means that on the front, if I have the 1/4 plus the 1/8, my Y grade is 3/8. Okay. All right, and then lastly, at 16, I am again crossing from origin point over this slash line that dictated the 1/4 on my waist and hip. And so I'm going to use that same 1/4 of an inch here at my thigh. Now, sometimes thighs can grade differently than waist and hip, and that's okay. The other way I could figure this out is by looking at my thigh grade, which is 1 3/8. Okay. So if I have 1 3/8 grade, okay, if I look at what I've already accounted for, I have 3/8 here and I have a half here. So 3/8 plus a half is 7/8. 1 3/8 minus 7/8 is a half, right? And I have two side seams. So I have a quarter and a quarter, right? I split them in two. So I can get to these rules from different directions. And some of it is just knowing that we need to increase at certain points that are unique to pants, like this crotch extension. Okay, so we are going to now add these rules into our table. We're going to add rules 11 through 21. And we're going to start entering in these numbers. So for 11, I had an x of 0. And actually, I can go ahead and just do all my zeros. So 12 has an x of 0, 13 has an x of 0, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 20. Okay. 11 is going to have a y movement of a half. I'm on the negative y quadrant, so that means my positives will be for smaller sizes and my negatives will be for larger sizes. And I'm sorry, I spoke incorrectly. The 11 is my front rise. That's the one that we did up here. So it's actually 3/8 and negative 3/8 for the smaller sizes. Okay. 12 is my knee, which has a 1/16 of an inch grade. I'm still in that negative quadrant, so my negatives will be for larger sizes. My 13 has the same rule. My 14, I flip back to the positive y quadrant, which means my negatives will be for my smaller sizes. I'm going to copy from here to here. 16 is going to have a quarter, and I'm still in that positive y quadrant, so negatives for smaller sizes, positives for larger sizes. I'm going to, whoops. What's happening? Okay. I'm going to copy this to the 17 and to the 18y. For the 19y, I'm flipping my negatives, and I'm going to use this same y rule for my 20. Okay. For my x of 18, I have the same, negative a quarter, positive a quarter. This x rule is the same for my 18 and 19 rules. And my 21 rule will have x as 0, and my y will be 0.5, 0.5, negative 0.5, negative 0.5. I'm going to save this, and then we will go and apply it to our